What is happening, peeps? We are gonna do, we're gonna watch Asmongold's review of Diablo 4 and see if we agree or disagree. So, without further ado, let's get into the video.
On Diablo 3. All right, let's start over. My thoughts on Diablo 4. So, let's talk about obviously the campaign. I think the campaign was very good. I liked the campaign. Campaign was very well put together, and just overall, I liked the cinematics. I think it flowed together very well. Everything was voice acted. There were great little cutscenes. Nothing is bad about the campaign. I think the campaign was a universal W, and I was very happy about it. I also think that it left off on a position to where...
Right, so let's talk about this. So for me, personally, I did think the campaign was okay. I think looking back when I first played it, I was like, oh, it could be better. But then once I started reading more lore and what was happening, the campaign made so much more sense. Cutscenes were filmed awesome, so I agree with him on that point. Like the cutscenes and like if it is like as a standard campaign, it is pretty good, especially if you're gonna watch things. I think how everything was set up and it was easy to follow. There was no like confusing bits because everything eventually explains itself. So yeah, I'd say the campaign was somewhat enjoyable, especially if it's just a one playthrough thing. Obviously, you're not going to replay the campaign over and over again because you're just going to skip everything. So I think there's some moments where you can't skip the cutscene, which I think they kind of did on purpose to like make people like, oh no, you're going to watch this bit. But I agree with Asmongold. I think the campaign was pretty good.
It definitely opens up the possibility for expansions, and it's obvious what those expansions are going to be, right? You've got the Mephisto shit. Like, obviously, I mean, how many fucking times have we killed Diablo? Like 15? And he keeps coming back. I'm sure Lilith will be back too. So you've got Diablo himself, Baal, fucking Mephisto, like all that stuff. Yeah. So campaign was amazing. The gameplay, this is the best way for me to describe the gameplay for Diablo 4. I think that the levels 1 through 80 in Diablo 4, 1 through 70, maybe a little bit to 1 to 80 depending on your RNG, are better than PoE. And I think 70 to 100 or 80 to 100, depending on RNG and how well you play and stuff like that, that part is better in PoE. Because I feel like Diablo 4, it misses that last fifth of the game. Like 1 to 20 is great, 20 to 40 is great, 40 to 60 is great, 60 to 80 is like mostly great, and then 80 to 100 is like, what the fuck am I doing with my life?
So yeah, I definitely 100% agree. So I think it's a little shorter though because I am 78. I'm a 78 sorcerer, so I'm about to hit 80 soon. For me, I agree. Like I'd say 1 to 60 is like good, manageable. I definitely agree. It's better than PoE. PoE it does it so much better than PoE. But the end game for Diablo right now sucks. Like the grindiness to get to 60 to 70 is literally based on a lot of just RNG nonsense of whether you get better gear. And right now at end game you get hardly anything. You're picking up the same stupid aspects, hardly any better gear. So all you're doing is just doing it to level. So for me, like I'm hitting 70 and I'm starting to feel that little thing of like, oh, will I go to 80 or will I not? Will I go to 100? So I agree with Asmongold. I think Path of Exile did it better at the end. I also think Diablo did it better at the start, but literally missing endgame, which is really weird because it's like promoted as everyone knows like Diablo, these types of games, whether it's PoE, Diablo, Grim Dawn, and a few other like what is it, Path of Enoch or something on like that. We all know these types of games do it like early on. You're not really doing anything, but late game and the end levels is when the game starts. Like early on, it's kind of like, oh, here's an introduction to the game. You hit max level, or like technically where like Paragon starts, and that's where the game opens up. That's where you start. Diablo is like the campaign's kind of like an introduction and like a, I don't know, like a tutorial almost until you finish it. But yeah, I agree. I think like one to 60 is fine. 60 to 70 is a little is a little sketchy sometimes. Like there's some moments where you're like, why the fuck am I even doing this? And then I can see obviously 70 to 100, let's just say, is being fucking pointless. Like totally pointless.
Why am I doing this? I'm farming all of this gear. I'm getting all of these Paragon levels for what? To kill Uber Lilith and get nothing? Who cares? Right? There's no point to it. I'm not motivated to continue doing
I agree with that.
So, like, I feel like I just run out of motivation to continue doing this, right? It seems for nothing. Yes, it's just for nothing. Yes, maybe I'll get them out. Maybe I'll kill Uber Lilith at some point. But my motivation for it is very, very minimal. Somebody brings up in chat, race to 100, hardcore is super fun to watch, but seeing all the illegitimate deaths was a letdown. Blizzard is fixing that. You know, everybody said I was wrong with this. Apparently Blizzard disagrees. So I think that's great to see. Blizzard is changing that. On top of that, another thing that's happening is they're adding in like little bonus things into the game, right? Like the gem tab. I do not understand how adding a gem tab into this game. I don't understand how this takes until season 2. And I really hope that Blizzard realizes that not everybody in the world lives inside of Blizzard time dilation.
Yeah, so this is true. Like, I don't know why the fuck they went down this route. It's so fucking strange because a lot of other games have a separate bag for like your miscellaneous nonsense. So like your gems. And the fact is that you picked so many fucking gems up, like you don't need them. You don't need that many fucking gems. But they constantly drop, and it's like, oh, here's all these gems, fill your inventory up for no fucking reason. Because eventually you're just going to be using certain specific high-end gems to put into your gear. So all the low-end ones, don't get me wrong, you need them to craft then high-end ones, but put them in a different freaking bag. Like, the fact that they're waiting to do it until season 2, which is ridiculous, because obviously it's something that needs to be implemented now. Do I know if it's an easily implemented thing? Probably, like, I have no idea, but I presume it should be okay. It's just an extra like tab where you can just like here equipment, consumable, quest aspects, put another tab on there, fucking gems, like simple. Like, but they're so. I presume they don't want season 1 to mess up, but the longer they kind of avoid putting things in that players want and the necessity of it, the more people are going to like drop off and be like, well, this is pointless. Like, I'll just play at season 2 when it's actually implemented into the game. And I think a lot of games companies do this, and what Asmon just said then is pretty correct. Is like, games companies have this thing in the head where it's like they're all on their own time line, their own. We'll release this when we're ready. We'll release this in this and this, and it's like a little bubble where the world around it carries on at normal speed, but in that little bubble, everything's super slowed down. And the issue with this is that games companies, and this is not a dig at games companies, well, it might be a little bit, but they always think they know what's best, and that's not correct. Like, for instance, if we're looking at Diablo, and me personally, I'm a big believer in like balance, but also catering for those people who grind a lot more. Because for me, the people who like grind a lot more and the content made for that means that there's eventually more content for the casual player. Now, do I think catering strictly for the hardcore people and the people who are grindy as hell and who do like, I don't know, 15 hours a day? No, because then you're gonna lose a hell of a lot of a portion of a player base, right? But I do think you can find that like evenly balanced. And the only problem that games companies have then is that they think they know best when they don't, because you've got millions of people or hundreds of thousands of people playing your game constantly every day for specific amounts of hours, sending feedback being like, oh well, this what needs fixing. Like a big portion of people are like, this is what's wrong with it. Implement these changes. This will be good for everybody. But they go, well, no, because we've tested the game. That's what games companies ask. The 30 people in our company who test the game and think it's best to keep it to season 2. And that's the biggest thing, is like, you have to listen to your audience. Now, don't blindly go in and be like, well, audience said this, let's do it. But if a majority of people are like, give us a gem thing, because like a gem tab, because it takes up so much space in our inventory, and then you go to your stash and your stash is about as worse as it gets, you were just cluttered with miscellaneous bullshit. So that's where Blizzard need to get out of their own little head. Like Asmongold was saying, like no one else runs on their time. Like if they slow and are slow to put things out because it's Blizzard and games companies, people will move on. Like that will move on. The world carries on without you. If you stay stationary and don't implement changes that are necessity to the game to make it better, your game will stand still. Your player base will move on. There'll be those few people who stick with it, but you're kind of getting them stuck. That's your fault. It's partly theirs, but they're dedicated to the game. They'll stay with you, but they'll still be stuck with you while everyone leaves you behind and moves on.
Where like changing the spelling on something takes 10 months. So if the game is bad, people are just going to move away from the game, and a lot of times they're not going to come back and play it whenever it's good again.
See?
And this is what happened with Shadowlands.
Yeah.
That Shadowlands was bad for so long because Blizzard refused to listen to what the player base said. And then by the time that it was improved at the end of the game, well, nobody cared anymore. And Diablo 3 was the same thing, yes. So I
can vouch for that. The Shadowlands thing. Obviously, my wife, she's a huge World of Warcraft player, and we've not played since. Oh, what we're talking about? Like, we played a bit of Dragonflight, but Shadowlands, we played like the first few days, like maybe a few weeks of it, and then just stopped because it was so bad. So like, and that's what, like, say Blizzard do, is like it takes so long to fix things that people aren't gonna wait.
don't think that Blizzard can rely on people just waiting around for the game to get better. They need to be making these changes proactively, immediately. New World is another great example of this. Immediately. Like, I don't want to wait until Season 7 for the game to be good. This is ridiculous, because by the time Season 7 comes out, people are going to lost interest in the game. I think that's another big issue. A lot of these changes have come, they've been too slow, basically. So just in general, the cadence of changes has been both very fast and too slow. Some of the things like making adjustments to different abilities, nerfing things. I play a Whirlwind Barbarian. I'd say like 80% of the nerfs were definitely warranted. Like it just was insane. It's an insane class. So I definitely understand why they nerfed it. But, like making the classes playable, I think is another issue. Because whenever I leveled, and this is mainly experience from the beta, I haven't really played the live game, but as far as I know, a lot of that hasn't really changed ever since the second beta and the server slam, is that the experience playing the game and the experience leveling 1 to 50 as a barbarian and a druid is decidedly worse than the other classes. And it's worse for no reason. Because inside of all of your skills and your talents and everything like this, there are coefficients
I don't know if
that
this is from the full
increase these
game, but
numbers
it's
based
still
off of the
80
level that
something.
you are and based off of different secondary stats. And I think Blizzard would be doing themselves a really big favor if they just made barbarians and druids more fun to level. I think this is like an easy W, and it's just not a fun experience. I think that also this problem is like, it's like multiplied because in Act 1, a lot of the fights in Act 1 are melee unfriendly, right? Where you're fighting like the girl's mom, and there's like the succubus mobs running away from you constantly, and then the fucking chosen of Lilith is.
So yeah, that sucks. And what he speaks there, I can like I've been there. So as a sorcerer, going into where you fight, is it Nirel's mum? And it's the succubuses. I think it's like 2 and then 3 and then 4 spawn or 5. That moment as a sorcerer was okay. Druid I didn't find too bad because I was using a lot of lightning. So Druid was okay because I could still have a bit of range on him. But going into doing a hardcore playthrough on both a rogue and a barbarian, because at that point I still have to get close to the rogue almost like occasionally. Like on hardcore, that is like one of the worst fights ever. I think I died like twice on it. I had to restart the whole game, obviously. Just because I understand what you're saying. It's not melee friendly at all. Like, and I get if they don't want to make it melee friendly, but they still have to give some advantages to a melee character to get in there. But they didn't. And the druid, I think the druid's a little easier to level up towards end game. Like, I'm actually saying that barbarian, because barbarian was kind of OP as well. But yeah, early on they kind of suck. They were sucky in the beta as well, especially the druid and the server slam.
Standing inside of the poison cloud it dropped, and you just have to attack it. It doesn't feel good to play melee and or to play a barbarian and to play a druid in early game. And I don't really see that being a positive. I don't think that it's a good thing that one class is just bad or it's less fun to play or something like that. I don't see any advantage to that, and I think that it's a universal negative. So they should make those two classes
I'm good. How are you?
at early levels. I think that also like the
Nelly?
builder spender meta that like a lot of classes have is kind of boring, and I think that it's like it doesn't feel good. And I would ask this to anybody in the chat, right? Does it feel good to use your basic abilities?
No. Basic abilities.
So why
suck.
do they exist? Yeah, it's just stupid. I also think that with barbarians specifically, and
like sorcerers. Nah, I'm okay. I've already got some people working on it, but I do appreciate you stopping by and saying that. I agree with him. I think your basic skills suck. There's no point of them being there. I think the sorcerer's fire arrow is viable because of the sorcerer's enchantment you can stick on it, which means anything you attack sets on fire, like applies burn damage. So that's the only good thing that I can actually say comes out of fucking any basic skills is might as well put them away. Like they're so pointless, and I think they should be viable in some aspect. I think they need to rework them and be like, okay, you can use this. Like, oh, for a sorcerer, like, because you have to then find like mana regen and resource regen, things like that, and skill cooldown. Because especially if you're using like eye shard build, it's mana hungry. You literally just plow through a boatload of mana, and it's kind of crazy. But also, it's how it is. You know what I mean? You're kind of a mage, but I think just tweaking the aspects of basic skills of what they do could be a lot better.
this is like more class design type stuff to slow your game, but they don't, because whenever you're at max end game, you never use them. Like I basically never use this ability. Like, I'll use it every once in a while, but for the most part, I'm using Whirlwind. I could take Lunging Strike off my bar, and my gameplay would not change that much. So I think that the basic abilities and the necessity to use a basic ability that feels bad for, like, the majority of the game is pointless, and it's not fun. I don't see the reason why they can't tone down the cost of abilities earlier on in the game, because it would just make the classes more fun to play.
Yep.
Like, that's really all it comes down to. So imagine waiting until season 2 to fix a bug. Yeah. And so other things, like, Blizzard has been very receptive in a lot of ways. Like, they've been listening to, like, the gym tab, for example, they're going to be adding, but again, it's going to be taking until season 2, which I think is absolutely ridiculous. Like, this is outrageous that you can't make this change in the middle of a season? What the fuck are you talking about? This is an always online game. You can force a patch to everybody. What do you mean you can't change the game inside of a season? It's ridiculous. Let's talk about, I guess, like the dungeon farming meta. I think that Blizzard should just immediately add the reset dungeon button back into the game. We had this in the beta, and Blizzard decided that it was a bad idea. So
I think I know what he's going to say here. Like, resetting dungeons so you can just farm a dungeon. Obviously, it is nice to have a reset button on there, just because it makes things simpler. Because right now, we are stuck with, if you want to reset a dungeon, then obviously you have to leave group, make a new group, go to the dungeon. Because no one wants to keep running back and forth to dungeons as well. So what I think as well, they need to implement like a dungeon list somewhere where you can just, it's a tab or it's a setting that you click on dungeons, it brings the whole list of dungeons up, you click on it, and it teleports you to said dungeon. And because, to be honest, no one likes running around. Like, for instance, you go to, let's say, would you start off at Kyovashad, right? You pop a freaking Ancestral Nightmare dungeon, right? Wicked. It's at the bottom of the freaking map. So then you have to teleport to the nearest waypoint and still run to that point. And it's becoming like a running simulator for dungeons, where you're just constantly running to dungeon after dungeon, in and out of groups, swapping to reset it. I know some people don't like the reset button, but it will make things a lot easier and a hell of a lot efficient on leveling up.
they removed it. I think the removal of the dungeon reset button has only made the game worse, and people are still using dungeon resets. They're just doing it in a contrived way. They're doing a workaround for it, and that workaround hurts solo players, and it hurts people that don't want to try and get into a group just to like metagame out some sort of like.
Right, so we know pretty much reset instant button. Problem with dungeons. Let's see what he says on the dungeon. Like, problem with dungeons.
Fucking goblin that's sitting over in the corner, and because it was kind of close, but he's in another room, you have to like run around to get him, and you didn't actually have him get pulled to you at the end. You've got to rescue 7 villagers, and it's a spider area, so you're getting the little spiders attacking you constantly. It's like they're very annoying, and I'd like to have more dungeons that were just focused on killing mobs rather than completing menial tasks over and over and over. They're obnoxious. Also hitting dead ends or missing something and then having to run back and get it again. I'm not asking for just like pure fucking all gas, no brakes, greater rifts. I don't mean that, but like at least make the things that you have to do not as fucking annoying. Also,
yeah, because so I agree. So right now there's oh my fucking god, I can't. But so in like he's saying in dungeons, there's this silly tasks you have to do, right? And instead of it's just other than slay all enemies, and if you do fuck up and miss one, because some of them teleport. So when you're blasting through a dungeon, some enemies teleport, and that's kind of fucking annoying. So then it teleports back and you miss it, so then you have to run all the way back and get it. But what he's saying is I don't think I've completed any of these. In dungeons there's events, and it's like save 3 keep all 3 survivors alive that have been attacked, right? But it's in the space of a freaking donut. Like, it's like a 1-room thing and it's tiny. And you just can't do it. Even though you've got AoE, like he said, sometimes it's spiders and the fucking webs all over the floor and you try and kill them. And then one dies because it's focusing on... It's ridiculous. It's the most pointless thing. And I don't like... Find 2 stones to put on this pedestal. Awesome. Go into the next one. Kill 3 constructs. Awesome. Then boss fight, right? Or sometimes then it's like slay all enemies. Wicked. Like, there's some things that are just so pointless doing that I would rather, me personally, would rather have what I was going to say. I'd just rather have kill all the enemies, do a mini boss, do maybe 2 mini bosses onto the main boss. Because dungeons are just screwed up right now. And that's the thing, is like they want you to do so many tasks in dungeons, and I like the fact that they're implementing new things. I'm okay with the whole dead end thing. I don't want a dungeon so fucking linear that you're just running in a straight line, because it'd be pointless. I like to explore things. But, so I disagree on that. I don't think it should be... I think the exploration's fine. I just think the tasks inside the dungeon are kind of shit.
Doing the, like, these are going to be like little things. Like, I don't really have this structured very well in my head, so I'm going to be kind of jumping around a little bit. But like inside of the dungeons, the events inside of the dungeons are fucking garbage. Every single like wave that you do after wave 5 should have more and more elites. Like more and more and more and more until you either die or the timer runs out. Because that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't want to do like oh, I'm on wave 9 and 3 succubus spawn. One's here, one's here, one's here, and then there's also a fucking demon that spawns over here, and you kill them, and then it's like, okay, now there's 4 succubus. Okay.
Yeah, it doesn't get harder.
You'd
think it gets harder, but it just doesn't. Because obviously,
the activities faster.
The more you do after you've completed the 5 out of 5, that's the requirement to get the chest. I think anything after either should give you a bonus chest or implement more bosses that are harder that drop better loot. But it doesn't. It just is shit.
Because having to sit there for an entire minute whenever you're just re-killing...
So... That's a good point it's got.
If I go inside of the suppressor, I should not have to recast Whirlwind. And if it's teleporting away, like, you know those mobs that the second that you engage them, they immediately teleport away? That's insanely fucking annoying whenever the main glyph that everybody uses automatically applies vulnerability as soon as you hit them. The exploit glyph, where the fuck is it? I think it's right here, right? Marshall exploit. Yeah, this one here. So, like, it's designed in a way to be as annoying as possible. Mm-hmm. Why the fuck would anybody want to do that? And especially if it's one of the vampires.
Like, and I only get lucky because I'm a sorcerer, so I use Frost Nova, so I can freeze them. My vulnerability freezes them. So, but anybody else, yeah. If you're using, like, specifically vulnerability glyphs, you're definitely going to be hitting things, and they're going to teleport. I've had instances where I'm in a room and they teleport into the next room because it's close, so you have to run or wait for it to come back to you.
Higher guys, because not only do they turn into a bat and then move away, but they also teleport away with their abilities. So you're dealing with that shit as well. And I also want to emphasize, as I go through all these things in the game.
Oh, and for me, what also I'll add on to that, specific nightmare dungeons, 2 in particular, is a big giant fucking stone that follows you around, that slams the fort and like does AoE damage with lightning, is just annoying. It's the annoyance of it. I get it's like something they want to change the dungeons up, and it's like they add little things, but there's 2 specific. There's that one, and then there's also the silly fucking It Follows. If anyone's seen the movie It Follows, it's like a talisman. It's like a horror version of it, like of a talisman, but it's It Follows. It's a talisman that follows you around, and then you have to listen for a ding, because then it's gonna set off a bubble that you have to get in before it shoots lightning at you, which is kind of this is kind of ridiculous. Yeah, again, it's just inconvenience because you'll be running and it'll be boom and it'll go that way, and then you have to then spend like, I don't know, 10 seconds running back. It's like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, 2 steps forward, 1 step back, because this talisman just likes to do, like, it's stupid. Like, I get corpse explosion ones, I get things that explode on the floor, that's fine. Like, it's universal, the freaking corpse, like, that's fine. But doing things that's an inconvenience is just kind of silly in dungeons.
I would recommend buying Diablo 4, and I do think that it's a good game. I think it is an extremely solid game.
Go buy it.
God fucking damn, it could be a lot better. It could be a whole lot better. I mean, the reason why I say that is because I think
I think to put on what Asmongold was saying as well, it's literally fucking, is it not like the fastest selling game or something? I was looking at some stats yesterday, sorry, and I think it's like 660 something million it's made, with 9 to 10 million copies sold in, and what, it's been out like 2 weeks or something. So it's good. Like, the game's good. You should go buy it. They just need to hurry up, and instead of making everyone wait to implement these better things that's going to better the better quality of game and player quality, they have to do it now rather than waiting.
Level 1 to 70. I mean, I think most people could agree with.
So, okay, well, let's check the mount situation out.
Look at it. Let's say I want to go over here. It works, right? Sometimes it works. Let's say I want to go over to here. Why not? Is this a joke? Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, that kind of stuff. I don't think we have that issue in console. We kind of just have to keep wiggle on console.
This is horrible. Why is the pathing so bad on the mount? It doesn't go around.
And sometimes on the mount as well, you'll get stuck on the most silly objects that aren't there.
And by the way, it does it a lot better. It's not even remotely close. Also, why is the mount on cooldown? Like, if I get off the mount and I want to click on something, why is it a 6-second cooldown?
Oh yeah, so this is fucking stupid. Whoever did this, like, oh my freaking god. So I'll get, like, I don't mind a 1 to 2 second cooldown. That's fine. But I notice it more when I'm running through a hell tide, that if you get knocked off your horse, it's like a 20-second cooldown, which is ridiculous. It's the most stupid thing, and half of the time you get knocked off your horse or hit off your horse is that enemies' hitboxes are so obscure and freaking all over the place. And when I mean hitboxes, like, I'm going to use it because probably that's what everybody knows, like, how a hitbox works, but it's more like their bump detection when you're running into objects and things. The bump detection boxes are just all different. Sometimes you'll be running and you'll get stuck on nothing on the floor. I've been stuck on a staircase. I've been stuck trying to get through enemies, and I'm like, there's like 2 enemies like here, and there's like 10 foot of room between them, and I can't run a horse through it because it's getting stuck between them, which is freaking ridiculous. And freaking barricades. Oh my freaking god, with the barricade. Just get rid of them. I get this. You should be able to just fucking yeet through them, just smash through them, that's fine. But half of the time, barricades are pointless because you'll be running, and then you'll hit a corner, you'll be like, well, let me get round them. There'll be like a good few, there'll be like a horse's length or width beside each barricade. Let me get through it. Let me just go round it. But you can't. You have to smash it to kill 2 things, to then wait another 4 seconds still, because that took you, like, to smash it, to break it down, to kill the 2 things took like 2 seconds. So now you're still waiting 4 seconds for your horse to respawn on a thing where you want to run everywhere. It's stupid.
Why is it not like a 2 or 3 second cooldown? I think that being able to make your mount run faster is really cool. I like that. I think that's a really cool thing in the game. I'm a very big advocate of that. I think it's really cool that they added that. And like the open world events like this, I think are fucking amazing too. I really, really like them. Where you can see people out in the world doing stuff, fighting other mobs. I think that is so cool. And I also think that the mount customization is pretty cool too.
So I think the mount customization is good, but I also think that you should be able to see more people on the map, like a lot more people, and not just like you barely see a few. I'd see a lot in like events, like Legion events. That like you see everyone, obviously World Bosses and things like that. But I think you should be able to see a little bit more.
I wish you were able to zoom in a little bit more, but for the most
Zoom
part,
in
I'm very
and
happy with the way the game is
zoom
in that
out.
regard. In terms of like the open world and the graphics of the game, I think that they're all really, really nice.
Agreed, they did a good job.
I think that again,
they did a good job on graphics, open world, everything. Like really, really good. Obviously, it's not a video of just absolute pooping on them. Like they did a good job on some aspects. They did a really good job. Like I've got like 5 characters at the minute. My wife's got 5 as well, and we're just getting them all to trying to get more to max. Like it is really enjoyable. There's some things that kind of annoy me, and I will talk about that towards the end.
The real problems in this game, they manifest themselves towards the very end of the game. Like at the beginning of the game, most of these problems you don't have to deal with. Like they're not really a big issue or anything like that. Also, sellers, it would be nice if sellers were a little bit more worthwhile. Personally, I don't think...
Yeah, sellers. He's going to talk about barricades and roadblocks, mounts. Good game. Like we just said, it's the fastest selling. What I want to see in Diablo 4. Let's just
I
go
want
through.
to see them add a tier 5 for level 80 plus players that has like new uniques, higher drop chances for the rare uniques like Shaco and Grandfather, and there's a few other ones. I'd like to see that happen. I don't think that it is great game design. Yeah, like this.
Yeah, look at the gap. Oh, so you can get
It's
around. Like,
fucking
yeah,
annoying.
it's like stupid, and look how like stupid it was to get
annoying.
around
Like,
it. It's
and
like
that's it.
your
But I
horse
think
is
that the
like
output
twitching.
Content like this is actually great. I like it. I want to see them add more stuff like this. Yeah, this kind of stuff is really good.
But yeah, I think they need to implement more tiers. For me, especially like tier 1 didn't even start on because it seemed pointless. A lot of early on people videos was like, look at this OP build, and you look and they're in tier 1, and it's like, well, that's just ridiculous. Tier 2 obviously is what everyone should start on. You get through it. For me, this is my pet peeve. It's like tier 3 is pointless. Everybody who I've spoke to about tier 3 is kind of, let's just get through tier 3 as fast as I can to get to tier 4. Like there was no thing of like, oh, you should probably just grind dungeons, grind these out, get loads of grind gear. Everyone I spoke to or who I played with who was higher than me, who were like really hardcore, they were like, skip tier 3. Just get in there, carry on doing just like get as fast as you can leveled to close to 70 where you can do, or get close to a build that's OP where you can do then the capstone dungeon, which is Elias again. I do believe it's Elias again. And that obviously then you get tier 4. Or is Elias? Yeah. No, Elias is tier. Yeah, Elias is tier 4. Yeah. So then tier 3 for me is pointless. So if you're skipping a whole tier in tier 3, give me a higher tier, like tier 5 or tier 6, add 2 more in, and implement the fact that you get better gear. You get a lot of things. Because right now, I don't think I'm in tier 4, and I'm like a part of it still drops freaking items and weapons and so on that are just pointless to me, that I don't need. Like, and I don't think that thing. I should think they should implement those higher tiers for higher gear drops for different, like, for different substats to drop, or just things like that. Just things like my brain's. I can't remember what they're called. The aspects, different aspects, things like that. Because right now, like, if anyone watches this, and I don't know if anybody is, because I'm kind of new at this, you just skip tier 3, just get in. If you want to do like a few, like, because you will get like sacred. If you want to do like gear runs really quick, that's fine. Don't do any nightmare dungeons. It is pointless. Just get to the where you're comfortable and where you think you can do the capstone dungeon for tier 4.
And just giving people a reason to go out into the world is a major positive and like a huge W in my opinion. Yeah, I even made like a list. I don't know if I can find the list right now of like all the things that I like to see happen with Diablo 4. But overall, I think that Blizzard has a great foundation for this game. But in order for the game...
Let's see, too much backtracking. Yeah,
I don't know, I'd have to think about the other ones, but that's really what comes to my mind. The volcano one, yeah, the volcano one is fine. I think a lot of them are okay. Also, poison. Anytime I do blind burrows, I'm just constantly poisoned for my entire health bar, spamming potions. Like,
yep.
Maybe this is something that's going to get fixed with
poison is
with
weird.
Balancing resistances, but for now it's just obnoxious. Like
war bosses. Okay. Good to war bosses. I think I know what he's gonna say.
Like the fact that your mount runs at the speed that your mouse is farther away from the cursor or the middle of the screen, I think is silly too. I think they need to change that. They need to hit harder? No, they don't. It's a world boss. It's a loot pinata. World bosses are loot pinatas in every single game. There's no glory to it. It's just a target dummy that people get to go and hit. I think annoying things are fundamentally good in games as it creates stress.
That is true. It's like a lot of war bosses you see in video games, even in MMOs, is kind of like they all end really. Hopefully, Ashes of Creation do it a little better, but they all end up being you just run to it, you kill it in seconds, and you go. It's kind of like everyone's ego comes out in the world boss because they get to show off all their gear and stuff and all the stats and how fast they do things. So that's how it always goes in games. That's how it's always been. Like, do I think they're good? Oh, yeah, but I don't think they're ever going to change. I think there's that many people that go to them, and it's like, especially with Diablo, like people's builds are so OP. It's that what maybe like 10-second world boss. So and then yeah, so
concentration.
What we'll do is I pretty much know what he's gonna say for the rest of it, because I think everyone's having the same issue, even me right now. Like, drop rates are crap. There's people who are max level. There's people who are close to max level. There's people who are going up there, and their RNG is like terrible, and it's really annoying because there's like really rare items on the game that I get are really rare, and there's like there's like a percentage chance that someone gets them. But I think if you're kind of like a casual player, unless you've got the best RNG on planet Earth, you're just never going to see those items. So I think drop rate needs to probably be increased a little bit. on specific items, not on everything. Because of that questionability. Even like gear leveling, like the drop rate needs to be a little better on that. But I think once you hit 70 and you've tried to figure out your gear and what build you go in and you build into that and you're just tweaking the last few things, 70 to 100 is that's all you're doing. You're just trying to get that little bit extra. You're just constantly tweaking, which kind of sucks. Like it seems like there's no gear from 70 to 100. There's nothing other than those super rare ones that really don't drop. So I think they do need to start implementing more gear drops of a higher thing rather than, oh, you're literally capped out on gear score and everything. Except from you can start re-rolling your affixes. I think they're affixed, whatever they are. But your substats, we're going to use substats because everyone knows that. But obviously, you could get crap ones, you could get good ones. So you're constantly just re-rolling to get the better ones you need. So that's overall kind of the drop rate situation. So for my final thoughts on it as well, on the game, do I think it's a good game? 100% yes, really good game. Do I think things need to be fixed and implemented? Yes, of course. There's a lot of things that would make this game and the experience of players a hell of a lot better. And I know hardcore people there who sit on it who are like freaking PoE experts and all. They're gonna have completely different opinions as well, but they're valid as well on their opinions because they play it a lot more. This is just my perspective coming into it of being like, okay, these things can be fixed. These things need to be ironed out a little bit. And I don't take one side or the other. I kind of find the middle ground because obviously I've done psychology, like forensics. I kind of like look at all the issues and I'm like, okay, this is what needs to be fixed. And I think the biggest issue with the Diablo community is the people who get really angry at people suggesting things are the people who are like, don't touch my character. Don't you dare touch my character and ruin my character. Like, because they're only thinking about themselves. And I think to make the game better, we have to think about how can we implement these to affect everybody. Whether that's slow players who will eventually catch up, hardcore players who constantly grind, just things like that. So I think that's okay. For me, my biggest issue is I die to things that I'm not stood in right now, which is a bit weird. Like I'm constantly dying. Bosses in dungeons and ancestral dungeons are just pathetic. There's no like a corpse bloater one-shots me. Literally just runs at me and one-shots me constantly. Where I can tank a boss in I can tank the boss in the dungeon. Like I can tank the boss. I need to keep looking at it. I can tank a boss at the dungeon. Corpse explosion blow me up. I die from things I'm not stood in. When I'm using ice shards, there's like delays sometimes. Like I'm frozen in place, but I'm not. Where my ice shards won't shoot. Then I've had glitches where I'm shooting my ice shards and they're damaging me. Like I have these 2 extra ice shards appear. You ever played one of those spaceship games where you collect the buff and then it's like you have 2 more guns and it's like now you're streaming four ice shards. Well, no, normally it's just 1 because I have things that pierce. My ice shards pierce 9 times, do less damage the more they pierce, but I have 9 times, so it's really good. But then all of a sudden I'll be doing it and I'll have like 2 more pop up, so now I have 3, but it's like damages me. It's such a weird glitch that's happened once that. So like I said, there's like a glitch there. There's also a glitch where you'll be shooting your ice shards. You'll like frost nova, boom, and then there's like a small amount of time where you can't use your ice shards again, or when you try and do, your character does this, and nothing comes out. It's absolutely not doing anything. And early on, I didn't even notice this. Like levels 1 to like maybe like 1 to 60, didn't even realize like this happened. It didn't even feel like this was a thing. 60 to 70 happened a lot more. Well, I noticed it happening. And then like 70 to like 80 is like it's happening every dungeon I go into. I'm just running through an empty room and I'll die. Or I'll be around a bunch of enemies and I'll be killing them. And then I'll die and it'll say so and so killed you. But none of them even did an attack or anything. It happened the other day. Like both to me and my wife at the same time, which was ridiculous. So right now, Sorcerer's got a few bugs that I'm noticing. A lot of freezes. So if I go into like I don't know, like a frosty mine or a haunted hole or things like that, sometimes it just hard crashes my game, so I have to restart it. Uh, what else? What other issues have I had? That so there's Helltide issues where the Helltide map will stay on, but not there won't be a Helltide event going off, so that's a huge issue as well. That's the big thing. Pins as well. Pins all disappear, reappear, things like that. So overall, the game overall is like really good, and I'm enjoying it. I'm a huge Diablo fan. There's just little things that need to be fixed to make the game experience a lot better. A lot of trial and error, and I'm glad obviously they did a beta, an open beta, and then like a service lamp because we got implementation of solid servers. Like the release was pretty good, and like the game's pretty good. End game is literally it's like watching paint dry. You just sat there. You like nothing feels like you're doing anything, accomplish anything. It's so painstakingly boring. It's like they went into it knowing early game they were like, we'll get everyone enticed, and then it feels like there's a big chunk of game missing, and that's probably with seasons. And I know a lot of people have this issue as well with seasons like resetting, and they like, oh, season one's done, reset, so you have to start again, season two. But for me, I've got no issue with that. I think for me, I've played ranked in a lot of games, and it's kind of the same thing. I get people like, well, but you lose your character and all, and it's like, well, I get it, and I get all that aspect, but when people complain about time, it's like, well, I put a load of time into my character in season one, and then it's reset. If we do the same, I did the same thing on Overwatch. Overwatch ranked, I'd put ridiculous amounts of hours in, and guess what? At the end of the season, everyone gets reset to placement games. Like, so it shouldn't be a big surprise. People shouldn't have a certain feeling about that. Because if that's the case, you still keep if you're not doing season, because it's seasonal character, you've still got your regular characters. Like for me, I'll be getting all the regular characters to as high as I can, preferably 100 if they implement a better way of between 70 and 100. And then obviously I'll be doing a seasonal character as well. So that's for me. But I don't know, the game's good. I'd recommend going and buying it. Definitely needs implementing. I think the community, the Diablo community, obviously we agree and disagree on things, which is fine. But I think everyone's goal should be to make the game better and not complain like someone's throwing a tantrum because your character is getting changed, or a nerf's happening, or a buff's happening, or something's happening that you're being really selfish about. And I see this a lot on. I'm gonna just implement this into really quick at the end. So I think I'm not in it no more because it's just so painstaking that when I joined a group of Diablo community, I was playing, and early on, I was like, I'm going to do some PvP, and oh my god. Like, I got wrecked by every rogue that I came across. Every single one. right? And I was like, let me just go voice this to people, see if people are having the same issue. And I was like, oh, I'm in PvP and I keep getting wrecked by rogues. I think this is something people need to look at, like Blizzard need to look at, Diablo need to look at and change. Maybe nerf, maybe change something. And I got so much hate for it because people obviously felt attacked because they're all little, I don't know, in their little snowflake world or whatever they're doing. Instead of like, what can we do for the game? They were like, oh, you're attacking my character. I play a rogue. Secretly, I know it's OP, but I'm not going to say that. And then all the response you get is, get good. Or, oh, you've not learned how to beat them. Like, a lot of people was like, oh, it's just a skill thing. So a lot of them, you can kind of tell, because I just wanted some healthy feedback. I wanted to know if people were having this issue. None of them could be honest. Obviously, the people's feelings were hurt were the people who was telling me to get good, or it's a skill issue, things like that. Then I had the other side of the rogues, who had done multiple characters, who was like, yeah, they're crazy OP in PvP. And it's not just 1v1, you can have groups of 2, groups of 4. So if you've got a group of 4 rogues, you've fucking everything up. And this was early on. I've not really done PvP since this happened. And I was like, and then they were like, yeah, like I'm like a level, what did it say? Like, I'm a level 50 something rogue, and I can melt I can melt like level 64 players. And I'm like, right, okay. I'm like, wicked. A bit of conversation. Nope. They were like, well, you're probably good at the game. It was like, Jesus Christ. So I was like, so this is where we come to. It's not about a community coming together to make the game better. It's selfish reasons for people to keep their character OP. So then I was like, well, fuck this shit, because all of you have got about as much IQ as a fucking potato trying to get up a set of staircase, right? Because that's all it was. It was like, don't take my character away. Like, instead of just a healthy, normal freaking conversation. So I was like, right, fuck it. Easiest way to simplify it. I was like, in chat, I was like, right, fuck it. I'm going to make a rogue, and then I'm going to go into PvP, and then I'm going to see. So I made a rogue, went into PvP, melted. I was like, this needs nerfing a little bit. Something needs to change. Went back, came back in. I was like, I was right. All of you were totally wrong, because you just had your feelings hurt of some stupid thing instead of trying to make a game better. I'm gonna carry on with my sorcerer. There we go. I should have just done that in the first place. I shouldn't really engaged in that. But I was hoping for like a healthy conversation. But right now, that's going to be the biggest deciding factor. Is if the Diablo community can kind of come together and not act like a bunch of fucking children, and just be like, it's good. Some things need changing. Some people don't like certain things. Some people do like certain things. I like certain things. Someone else doesn't like certain things. Whether I like it or I don't, like if that one thing makes everyone's, well, not everyone, because you can't cater to everyone, but if that one thing makes a big portion of the player base has experienced a hell of a lot better, okay, I'm all for it. Like that. So my thought is, like I say, it's good. Needs some fixing. Like, I'm really enjoying it. Do I think I'm going to be playing it? I'm carrying on with my rogue right now, because sorcerer, like I say, I'm like 77 or something, and I'm starting to hit that. Oh, this is like annoying and pointless. So I've gone to making new characters and getting those up as well, just for the fun of changing things up. Hopefully season 1 comes. Hopefully they implement things in season 1. Don't really want to wait for like a million years for things to be like applied and things like that. But you know what I mean. It's freaking Blizzard. They might take 10 minutes. They might take an hour. But God knows. But on that note, peeps, that is my honest thoughts. I agreed with Asmon on some things. I don't think he's wrong on a lot of things. Like, I technically agreed with everything he said. implement. He definitely skipped a few things, but it depends if people have experienced those things and all. But all in all, like he made a lot of sense on things. Like I think that's where it comes. Like obviously people are gonna disagree. That's fine. But yeah, if you want to catch my stream later, my link was in the description. I'll be doing more videos like this. I will be uploading a vlog because we go on vacation soon to Savannah. So keep an eye out for the vlog. I won't be gaming or streaming. I might try and live stream. Do like a little live stream from the hotel. Whether they've got good internet or not, I'll figure it out. But much love as always, peeps. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye-bye.